So still looking at this, still taking this test the way that we want to take it, not the way they expect us to take it. We've looked at vocab, we've looked at paired. Now, you might need to do a little bit of reading so that you can answer the big picture questions. Big picture questions, over the course of the passage, the primary focus shifts from. That's a big picture question. The main purpose, that's a big picture question. So the reading I'm talking about, I want you to read this like differently than you would read anything else. You want to read this thing fast. You don't get any points for reading. My suggestion is don't read every word. In fact, the way that I would read it is just crazy, but here's how I would do it. Read the first sentence of each paragraph and maybe the last sentence. The Alcazar, I would read the title, The Folded Leaf. If there's any information up here, it might, sometimes it's noteworthy. I don't see anything helpful there. The Alcazar restaurant was on the Sheridan Road near Devon Avenue. Okay, so we're looking at a restaurant. Forgot to mention it, but passage 1 will always be a narrative on the SAT. Same on the ACT, actually. So it starts, it's just this is a story. Got a restaurant, unless someone had upset the marks on page 177 were from Tears. So, I don't know, some guy's reading a book, it looks like. While Lamy read about the Peace of Paris on the 13th of May between France, his right hand managed again and again to bring food up to his mouth. So, dude's eating and reading, Dude in restaurant, reading. A party of 4, so the people came in. We already read about those people. They were really loud. Time is probably no more unkind to sporting characters than it is to other people, but physical decay, unsustained by respectability, is somehow more noticeable. Wow, what a sentence. Okay. Apparently he himself is not aware there had been any change. All right. I'm not even super worried about, there's a dude eating in a restaurant, and then this is talking about getting old or something, it feels like. That's all I really want, to jump into this. So over the course of the passage, the primary focus shifts from thoughts to observations, strangers to personal, setting to personality traits, reading a book to descriptions of people. Now, I'm already feeling anxious because it's like, a lot of those feel like they're correct, but I'm going to pause and tell myself, no, man, only one of these is the answer. So there's perfectly good reasons to get rid of some of these, okay? At the beginning, was it about his inner thoughts primarily? I think not. This is about the restaurant, the walls, the table, the decorations, the book. He's reading. His right hand's bringing up food. None of that is inner thoughts. None of that is inner thoughts. That's good enough for me to get rid of that. Because I'm under the working assumption that most of these are not the answer, because most of them are not the answer. That also was not an exchange between strangers. This is talking about the restaurant and this dude reading and eating. Physical setting of the scene, that's restaurant. Different characters' personality traits. Experience reading a book, yes. Descriptions of people in the restaurant. So that then is the question. I like the beginning of both of these. Is this primarily, at the end, about different characters' personality traits? I'm looking hard at that actual word. Or is it about descriptions of people? So, personality traits versus descriptions. The woman had shingled hair, rouge, lipstick, blah, blah, blah. The men were older. That's feeling like descriptions to me and not personality traits. He's not describing their character. He's describing what they look like. And y'all, I'm just gonna drop it, let go, and pick D. And then I'm gonna walk away. I'm a little bit anxious that might not be the answer. I want to sit and prove it to myself and get from like 80% sure to 100% sure, but y'all, you do not have time. You remember? You don't have time to care. So learning to just sort of swallow that anxiety around this test and just be like, I got to keep it moving. And then boom, keep it moving. Number 2, the main purpose of the first paragraph is to what? So before I go and read the first paragraph, I'm going to go find that set apart word. Nightly habits, date, setting, event. The main purpose of the first paragraph is about nightly habits. Talk about the date, the setting, or the event. I think we already said it's about the restaurant. It's talking about the book a little bit, but then it's ketchup, sugar bowl, on nearly every other. I mean, like if you're just looking for words and it's like, oh, he's reading a history book, this is about dates. Well, okay, I mean, maybe, but if that's what you think, then go back and look. Indicate the date the passage takes place by presenting period details. Well, no, it's talking about a history book, but that isn't about when the passage takes place. That's enough reason to get rid of that one. Setting by describing a place and an object, that's bingo. The place is the restaurant, the object is the book. That's a winner. An event, I don't see that. Nightly habits, you might think, oh yeah, he was there at night, right? Let's see. It said dinner. It didn't say night. Even if it was at night, for that to be the answer, it would have to be habits that he has every night, nightly habits. And I just don't see that in there. So again, it's like once you land on one and you're pretty sure that it's it, pick it and keep it moving. It can reasonably be inferred that Irma, the waitress, thinks Limey is through eating, line 37, because, let's see, book, plate, fork, table. So line 37. She thinks he's through eating in line 37. So the idea on ones like this, read a little bit above it, read a little bit below it. When Limey put down his fork and began to count them off one by one on the fingers on his left hand, the waitress, whose name was Irma, thought he was through eating and tried to take his plate away. So, is that about fork or plate? His plate is empty. Now, if you're using your brain, if you're thinking instead of finding, you might think, oh, if his plate is empty, she'll think he's through eating because you've worked in a restaurant and that's how you do it. Do not do this that way. What did it say? Did it say his plate is empty and that's why she thought he was through eating? Or did it say he is no longer holding his fork? When Limey put down his fork, bingo. It doesn't actually say that his plate was empty. So that can't be the answer. That's not it. That is it. So that's kind of how reading works. That's how big picturing works. We'll do some figures next. Step 1, find a clue word in the question. Step 2, find set apart words in the answer choice. Step 3, look into the passage to figure out what the connection is and get rid of them as you go. Eliminate choices that don't look or feel like they're the answer. And whatever you do, y'all, don't think. Your job is to find answers, not to think up answers. While we're here, let's just go ahead and finish these questions off. The narrator indicates that Limey finally closes the book because father, disruptive, Congress, preparing to leave. Now, this doesn't have any lines of reference, so I got to find something that's talking about him closing the book. Like skimming, scanning, my eyes are trained, and yours can be too, but I just literally instantly just looked at that. He closed the book. Now, if you can't see it that fast, you're going to have to look, but you're looking for the word closed, or you're scanning for the word book, and it's like, oh, boom, book. Limey closed the book. Okay, so wait, what am I doing? He closes the book because his father, disruptive, Congress, preparing to leave. there's Congress. The results of the Congress were stated clearly at the bottom of page 67. But before Limey got halfway through them, a coat that he recognized as his father's was hung on the hook next to his chair. Limey closed the book. Did he close the book because of Congress or because of his father? He said, I didn't think you were coming. It sure looks like his father is the reason. So did his father join him at the table? Yep. Pick it, shut it down, keep it moving. If you find that phrase in the text, that's a question that feels pretty simple and easy to me. Next, the primary impression created by the narrator's description of Mr. Peters in lines 74 to 79 is that he is healthy, angry, nervous, aging, or old. 74 to 79. Mr. Peters' hair was turning gray. That feels old. Scalp showing through. He'd lost weight. No longer filled out his clothes. Color was poor. I mean, that's definitely not that. I don't hear angry. I don't hear nervous. Aging and shriveled as bingo. Again, that one feels pretty easy. Another big picture question. The main idea of the last paragraph is that Mr. Peters neglects to spend time, behaves as if he was younger, conscious of symbols of wealth, preoccupied with the knowledge that he's growing old. So the main idea, there's only one main idea, the last paragraph. Apparently he himself was not aware that there had been any change. He straightened his tie self-consciously, and when Irma handed him a menu, he gestured with it so the two women at the next table would notice the diamond ring on the fourth finger of his right hand. So the change from up here, I think, is that he's getting old. The diamond ring makes me feel like we might be talking about wealth. Both of these things, and also the fact that his hands showed signs of the manicurist. One can blame on the young man who had pictures taken in a derby hat in the back of his head, all sitting with a girl in the curve of the moon. The young man had never for 1 second deserted Mr. Peters. He was always there, tugging at Mr. Peters' elbow, making him do things that were not becoming in a man of 45. That seems more like this is about being old, young, old, wealth. Is this more about age or more about wealth? It's definitely not A. I think it's probably B. You could make an argument that C is true, but it's not, I think, not the main idea. And, excuse me, I don't see the word, I don't see knowledge in there. Like, in fact, he doesn't understand that he's growing old. He's acting younger. That's it. Pick it, move on. Which choice best supports the conclusion that Mr. Peters wants to attract attention? That's really about attention. Line 80 to 81. Apparently he himself was not aware that there had been any change. That doesn't get it done for me. 81 to 85 are attracting attention. He straightened his tie self-consciously, and when Irma handed him a menu, he gestured with it so the two women at the next table noticed the diamond ring. That's totally the answer. He's flashing his ring. So that's it. That's all of passage 1. I want you to move on and keep it moving. There's a big picture question for passage 1, big picture question for passage 2. In these paired passages, the last 3 questions are usually about both, between the 2 passages, both authors. And then it'll ask you, like, what would passage 1 person say about these lines in passage 2? And trying to kind of boil that down to the pluses and minuses, like thumbs up, thumbs down sort of stuff. Let's stop right there and maybe go through one other full-length passage with some figures in it in just a second. Thanks.